welcome. I'm Michelle Anderson, founder of Clarinet Mentors, and today I want to show you a few important clarinet maintenance tips that many people don't know about that can make your clarinet play a lot better, sound better, and frankly just last longer before you have to take it to the repair shop. So I'm going to cover 4 things that apply to all clarinetists, and then 2 things that are more specific to people with wooden clarinets or wooden parts, like perhaps a wooden barrel. Recently I was at the Clarinet Celebration in Portland, and which was organized by the great clarinetist David Schifrin, and Maury Bakun gave an amazing hour-long lecture to all the clarinetists there based on his years of experience as a master craftsman and repairman. And so I've taken some of the gems out of his workshop and I'm going to share them with you. So number 1, very simple one that most people do to some extent or another. I want to talk about swabbing your clarinet out. Most of us know that we're supposed to swab every time we play to dry it out. And there's a few reasons for that. In general, we don't want water leaking into our pads and our tone holes. And if you have a wooden clarinet, it can be really destructive to the wood to not be fully dry. So I recommend a silk swab. I think that they're less likely to get stuck in your clarinet. They absorb really well. They're still easy to wash. One of my favorites is this one made by BG. It's super high quality silk and it's washable. You should wash your swab every few weeks. There's all kinds of gunk and stuff that gets in there and you want your clarinet to be clean. So I do recommend washing your swab, whether you're washing it by hand or if you have a machine washable one, do it regularly. Also, make sure your swab has the weight covered in cloth. If you have the bare metal ones and you're dropping them through your clarinet, they're just not as good for the instrument. You're in danger of scratching or dinging something inside of it. When you finish playing your clarinet, you should swab it until it's fully dry. If you've been playing for a full band practice or a long rehearsal, usually that's going to be 3 to 5 times. We don't think of that, but also, you know, each time we put it in, it might be aligned slightly differently. So dry your instrument well, have a good swab, clean it regularly. Number 2, this is a really interesting one, and I wasn't fully aware of how important this is. We all know we have corks between our joints, right? Here's a mouthpiece cork, and one of their purposes is to create an airtight seal between each of the joints. Many corks leak. A really obvious sign, let me see if I can sort of artificially create it. If I had a joint that wobbles, see right now I've pulled it out so far, I can kind of wobble my barrel. Well, for sure, I'm getting some air leaking out of that joint. And if you ever find you have a joint that's wobbling, odds are you have enough air leaking out of there that it's making your high notes harder to play, it's making it harder to play in tune, it's making it harder to play softly. I mean, lots of these things that frustrate us might be your instrument. So check it out. Now there are a couple things you can do to help maintain your corks better and to help them seal better. One thing is many of us don't realize that there's a glut of cheap cork grease out there in the music world, and some of those petroleum-based products actually degrade your corks. They literally deteriorate them, so your corks are likely to be falling apart. You need good quality cork grease. Most of the name brand clarinet manufacturers do create high quality cork grease because they're aware of this. Personally, I really like Dr. Slick. It's made by Doctor's Products. It's all natural. It works really well. Having said that, even natural oils lose their effectiveness after a while, so probably you don't want to keep it for more than a year, more than 6 months, but use good cork grease. In spite of that, with good cork grease, you need to clean your corks from time to time, and this is something I wasn't really aware of. So one of the simplest ways to clean your corks is to get makeup remover. So here I have a little thing of makeup remover. I can just take a cotton swab, put my makeup remover on, and fully clean off the old cork grease. It does get dirty, it goes rancid after a while, so we want it fresh and clean. And then just the little natural holes that are in the cork can cause air leakage, and we want to seal those. And in fact, if you ever take your clarinet into a repair shop to have it overhauled, you want to ask the repair person if they sealed the corks, if they've put on new corks for you. What you can do is get paraffin wax, just the kind you would use in a canning, people who make homemade jam. You can find pure paraffin, you wipe it on those corks to seal all the holes, and then once it's on there, you want to warm the cork with a hairdryer. Just gently warm it, smooth it out, rub it in, and what that will do is seal all of the holes and give you a much better seal. It may seem like a minor thing, but Murray had a really nice machine that actually measured how much air was leaking, and on one person's clarinet that he used as a sample, just waxing one joint reduced the amount of air leakage by about 10% on their clarinet. So instead of wasting air, it was now helping produce a really good sound. So have good cork grease, clean your corks about once a month, and make sure that your corks are big enough that they're sealing fully. If they're not, it's just a simple matter of getting a new cork put on so that you have the results that you want. All right, the third thing I want to talk about is cleaning your mouthpiece. And from time to time, we get calcium buildup on our mouthpiece. So if you ever see kind of a hard white residue, it doesn't wipe off with your swab, it just needs to be cleaned. And it's very easy to do it. Simple chemical reaction. You just want to soak your mouthpiece in a little bit of water with something acidic. Vinegar works great. Could be apple cider vinegar, could be white vinegar, could be lemon juice. Usually if I let it sit in there for 10 minutes, that's enough, and then I gently wipe it out with a cotton swab or a Q-tip. You can also, if you really feel like it needs cleaning, Maury recommended a very gentle cleaning brush are those disposable mascara wands. They're very soft little brushes, and often makeup counters will have those when they're having people test their products, or you can buy them in bulk on places like Amazon, but that's another tool you can use. Normally we don't run our swab completely through the mouthpiece. There are some parts in there that can wear down, but it is okay to wipe it out or have a small mouthpiece swab that goes through. We definitely don't want bare metal going through there. We just want to dry it out, but you can wash it regularly. That's going to help it out. All right, another handy tool I've mentioned before, but in case you haven't seen that video, is to have Teflon tape in your clarinet case or with you wherever you have your clarinet. It's sold in hardware stores with plumbing supplies, and honestly it costs about $1 for a roll. It's very inexpensive. This is just an emergency repair thing, and it is super handy. If you have a cork that, let's say my cork falls off in a concert, well, I'm not going to be able to play well, I'm going to have air leaking. This tape, it doesn't feel sticky, but it sticks to itself really well. I can wrap it around the cork until it's thick enough to produce a good seal. And that's a temporary clarinet repair. Or even if you've been watching this video and you notice your corks are rocking, and maybe it's going to be a week or two before you can get it to a repair shop, you can go out and buy this tape, wrap it around so you get a thick enough seal that as a temporary repair, your corks will not be leaking. It could even be used if your ligature broke to get your reed on really securely, or other emergency repairs where you need stuff on your clarinet to stick together. That's just a quick little thing to have. Now, I have a couple pointers that are more specific to wooden clarinets and wooden instruments, but I also want to say just a quick invitation to you. If you enjoy getting clarinet tips and pointers, I want you to join my free Clarinet Mentors community. There's no charge to join, and I send out a newsletter about once a month with pointers like this video. Just go to www.learnclarinetnow.com and you'll find all the information there. I have also some free training courses on how to play clarinet better, because I really like it to be more fun and more easy for you. All right, so my last two pointers. One, if you have a wooden instrument, it will need to be oiled from time to time, especially if you're in a dry climate. And before I talk about oiling, I want to talk about the way wood tends to swell and shrink based on humidity and weather. And so even if you just have a wooden barrel on your plastic clarinet, which by the way, A wooden barrel can make a student level plastic clarinet sound way better. It's a really inexpensive way, relatively, to upgrade the sound of your clarinet if you're not ready to upgrade to a fully wooden instrument. That change in humidity that happens naturally when we expose our clarinet to different climates, and if you're in a place where winter might be drier than summer or whatever you have, that change in the wood can just cause problems with your instrument. We want to regulate it. This really helps. This is called a Boveda two-way humidity control pack, and the one that Maury recommends for clarinets is 49% humidity. This pack is about $5. Again, I mail ordered it on Amazon. I'm sure there's lots of places that have it. If you're using them for reeds, it's a higher humidity percentage, but for your clarinet, this just sticks in your case, and you want to change it about every 3 months. What I've done is dated mine. This one I put in my case on July 22nd, so I know that in 3 months I'll put a new one in the case. It just sits in the case and helps the humidity. The other thing though is from time to time, especially when you're in a drier climate, the wood needs to be oiled. And what you want to do is have a separate swab that's dedicated to oiling your clarinet. And you'll simply, what you want to do is, a good recommendation Maury had is pure almond oil. And just put a few drops on the outside of your swab, run it through your clarinet, probably about 6 or 7 times till you have a nice layer of oil. If you have those pads that are either leather or have the skin on them, oil on the pads is not a good idea. It can damage them. So all you need to do is take a little piece of tissue paper or something and kind of slide it under each pad before you oil it if you want to protect those. Having said that, if you just have small drops on your pad, we don't want to be pouring oil into the instrument. Really, we just want a very light layer. So odds are it's not going to get in there other than your larger ones, but if you want to be safe, just putting some tissue paper under there will help protect it. And for most people, you only need to oil, depending on your climate. The drier it is, the more you need to oil. Most people oil a couple of times a year. That particular swab you can wash, but keep it just as your oil swab. One clue that your clarinet could use an oil is if you're getting lots of water in your tone holes. You play a note and it gurgles a lot. Sometimes just oiling your clarinet kind of smooths out the natural grain of the wood. It swells up a little bit, it rehydrates, and then you don't have little rivers aiming right at your tone hole, so it can redirect that. That's another helpful thing, and it's just good for the wood to have that there. All right, so we talked about many things that you can do to help maintain your clarinet better. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you're not a member of my community, please join at learnclarinetnow.com, and I'd love to hear from you. If you have questions or comments, you can put them in the comments box below. Thanks so much for watching.